Hello, everyone. It's State Senator Brock Myers. I'm glad to welcome you back inside the rails today, where we step away from sound bites and get to know people behind public service. Today's guest is someone whose path to the Capitol was shaped by community, hard work, and a belief that showing up consistently matters. Long before he cast votes on the House floor, he was learning what it meant to listen, to lead, and to stay rooted in the district he represents. In the Louisiana House, he's known as a steady presence, extremely smart, thoughtful, accessible, and focused on the practical impact of policy on real families. But beyond the title, he's a husband, he's a father, and a neighbor who understands that trust is earned long before Election Day. I'm looking forward to this conversation. I'm excited for you to get to know my colleague and my friend, one of the hardest working guys in the legislature, Representative Josh Carlson.
Hi, everyone. I'm Josh Carlson, State Representative for District 43, and let's go inside the rails.
Representative Carlson, thank you for joining us in the studio today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. I know it's got probably a lot on your plate right now. Timing's difficult, and we appreciate so much anytime that you can peel away, come in, and let people get to know you a little bit better. So I met you not long before we both went into the House. So like me, a lot of people know you either as Councilman Carlson or State Representative Carlson. But for the people who didn't know you before that, tell us a little bit about Representative Carlson or Josh Carlson as a kid. So I was born in Denver, Colorado. So I'm not. We're in the first 30 seconds, and I learned something I didn't know.
I didn't know you. So I did not grow up here. I moved here whenever I was just a few years old. My dad was Dean of the College of Education at UL. And so I am I'm an honorary Cajun, I should say. And so didn't have any family in the area, but this place is home. Love Lafayette, love Louisiana, and just love everything about our culture and the people here. And so that's me. I grew up playing sports. I was a big soccer player. I love hunting and fishing, as do so many people in our area. And grew up really seeing my parents serve. My mom was a teacher. My dad worked at the university, but served in so many capacities around the community, and really taught me and exemplified serving your community, working to make things better. If you see something that you think can be improved, then you don't just sit back and complain. You get involved, you roll up your sleeves, and get to work. And so I kind of saw that my whole life. And as I got older, I wanted to serve people in the same way. And so was a volunteer youth pastor at my church for about 10 years, worked in IT, still do now, and then ultimately ran for office. So that's the 30-second version of it.
That's fantastic. And I certainly don't even need to be honorary anymore. I think you're just Cajun at this point in time. Regardless of where you're born.
I make the gumbo in our house, so I tell my wife every time I cook, I'm like, does this make me, have I earned Cajun status yet? And depending on how good the gumbo is, I either have or I haven't.
Well, we all get to be around each other's families a lot, and I can honestly say I watch your kids and the way they look at you and the way you were just talking about your parents, and there's no doubt that that's being passed on, that commitment to service and what it means to serve.
I hope so. I mean, outside of the work that you and I do, right, it's important to remember that we're temporary. We're temporarily in this position, whether it's 4, 8, 12 years, 20 years. Someone else will be in this seat, and so it's important for me to prioritize my wife and my children and set an example for them, because I know that this job for me is temporary, but the impact that we make can last far beyond our term in office, and primarily through our kids. And so I really I try to prioritize that and set that example for them.
That's a great rule to live by. When you think about growing up and you think about maybe, some of those early jobs, is there anyone that comes to mind that kind of helped to really mold you into who you are, make you appreciate responsibility?
Absolutely. So My first job when I was 15 or 16 was actually working at Lafayette Lanes.
Okay.
And it was cleaning up after bowling, Friday and Saturday nights at midnight or whenever they finished glow bowling. And, unfortunately, Lafayette Lanes isn't even around anymore. But even from that standpoint, I learned to really, I'm here to serve. I'm here to. It's not just a job or a paycheck, I'm here to serve people. And then first, real job that kind of turned into the career that I have now is I got a job when I was summer after my junior year of high school working in the IT department at the Lafayette Parish school system.
Oh, good.
And I learned everything or most of what I know today in technology in that role, but it really taught me to serve others, the value of serving others, that your value in a role is equal to how you serve people. And so I've kind of made that my life's mission. Whatever I'm doing, whether it's public office, whether it's IT, I'm here to serve you. The better I serve you, the better. And it was, we had, at that time, it was 20,000 computers, 64 different campuses and office buildings. And I was one of 7 people.
Yeah, not unlimited resources.
Correct. And so it was, how do you prioritize the limited resources you have and the time, and to make sure that other people have everything that they have. And so that was really ingrained in me kind of from an early age, at least professionally.
That's to say, that's very early in your career to be grabbing that much responsibility, and that makes a lot of sense about how I see you approach things. I'm going to rewind us back about a minute in this conversation and go back to the bowling alley. 2 questions. 1, did you get to bowl for free?
I never got to bowl because every time I was there, I was on the clock working.
Yep.
I didn't work there long because I got tired of, I think we finished glow bowling on Friday and Saturday nights at midnight, and then we would clean up. So I was leaving at 1:30, 2 in the morning, and I was for $5.15 an hour, I was minimum wage. I didn't last too long then, and then I got the job at the school board. Yep. So I didn't get to bowl.
All right. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I'm going to ask the question everybody asks of bowling alley employees. Were those shoes really clean, Josh?
Absolutely not.
Okay, all right.
We spray them.
Thought about it. I'd always double sock.
That's right. We'd spray the little spray in there, but yeah, I would definitely do the double sock. I think that's the best approach.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Good. I know the first day that I stepped inside the rails in the Capitol when I went into the House was the same day that you did. Mm-hmm. And so I want to maybe hear from you a little bit about what that experience was like. What that feeling was the first time that you really walked inside the rails, and then what was maybe a surprising moment inside those rails?
I think for me, and I'm sure it was for you, kind of feel this weight of responsibility, right? That you're going, and for those who don't know, inside the rails on the House floor, on the Senate floor, it's not a public area. The public can sit off to the sides or up in the gallery and watch, but this is reserved just for House members and Senate members, right? So it's, I felt this weight and this responsibility that I'm here to do a job that, yes, I was elected to do, but not everyone is in a position to do. There's, you can look at issues in the community and say, it's all of our responsibility to come in and work towards. And that's true. Mm-hmm. But in our roles, you're one of 105 or one of 39 people that are designated to work out those issues. And so I felt this, I think it's very sobering for me I just felt this overwhelming sense of responsibility that for this next term, for this next 4 years, there's nobody else representing and speaking for and advocating for District 43.
Absolutely.
It falls solely on my shoulders, and I'm going to rely upon you and our other colleagues and members of the community to help. But at the end of the day, I'm the one that has to press that button to vote yes or no. I'm the one that has to dictate what is in that bill or what's not in that bill and make our voice, District 43's voice, heard inside those rails. And so I think that was probably the overwhelming feeling I felt at that time.
No, I'm supposed to be asking you questions, but I'm going to brag on you a little bit because, I tell people all the time, our Constitution doesn't allow us to not press a button. Mm-hmm. And when we're present, we have to press a button. Mm-hmm. And pressing that button could affect one life or hundreds of thousands of lives. And I think, Rep. Carlson, Josh, as my friend, I'll say Josh. One thing that, certainly has been your MO is that people know that you've been through the legislation. People know that you studied. People know that you put in the time. And so you have become a person that other people go to say, what's happening here? What does this mean? And I know you're not, we can't all be experts on everything, but you've been a trusted voice and a hard worker. And I think, people, when you're forced to press that button one way or another, a lot of people are watching what you're doing because they know you've done some research.
I certainly try because, going back to what I said a moment ago, there is nobody else.
Yep.
I can't say, oh, well, somebody else will do it. No, that responsibility falls solely to me in that role. And so I try to familiarize myself as much as possible with the issues. And like you said, every vote affects somebody. And not every bill affects somebody negatively, if we're honest about it. And what you have to weigh is, where are my core values and beliefs? What is going to have the greatest impact? But somebody is negatively impacted by the bill. And so I want to at least know and understand what is going to be the impact for everyone before I have to make that decision.
Yeah. Wow. And let's pull back on that. Or maybe get into the threads of that core value and relief a little bit, because I think that's part of what this show is meant to do is to really understand what's kind of built Josh Carlson, right? What frames your core values and beliefs, and sometimes getting to know us at different levels and historically helps us to understand those things. So I want to know, for our listeners, for our viewers, really, when you get a break from that schedule, like busy life and a lot of things, you got a family to take care of, you've got a private job, you've got a public servant role that is also full-time, but when you get that free weekend, what's it look like? What's that free weekend look like for you guys? The ideal, this is us. This is us at home.
I love being with my family, and we love being outdoors. If I had to boil everything down, there's always stuff going on, right? There's soccer games, and there's dance, and there's all these things. But if there's nothing going on, if we can, I want to have dinner or lunch at my table with my kids, and I want to be outdoors with them, spending time with them, because I think that's so important, and they keep me grounded. They keep me focused on what's important. Sometimes I'll frame a decision or a vote that we're having to make is not how is this going to impact me, because sometimes, as you know, we won't see the impact of that. But I have pictures of my kids on my desk. It's how is this going to affect my daughter and my son 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 50 years from now, when that vote might not impact me, but it will them. And try to frame that decision in that aspect. I love being outdoors, so I love, we'll go, it could be a quick couple hours over to Lake Martin and go kayaking. Or right here on the Vermilion River, we've done that multiple times. If we have more time, obviously going out to Sippermore Point and going fishing. Trying to get my son into hunting a little bit. He's good. My daughter loves animals, and so she's like, Daddy, how can you shoot an animal? And so last time I went duck hunting, I didn't shoot anything. And I got home, I said, did you pray that I wouldn't shoot anything? She said, I did. I didn't want you to hurt. I said, well, we're going to have to stop that. And so, but it's really anything with my family. We're always looking for an adventure together as a family. And that's the ideal time for me whenever I'm not at the Capitol or working.
And I've seen you guys at festivals, so I'm assuming festival goers as well as a family.
We are, and certainly not as much as others, but we love creating memories together. And maybe that's someplace new or someplace different. We just love doing stuff together to build those memories.
Yeah, great. When you think about maybe your life and the influence of your parents and grandparents and those around you, is there a recipe you like to think about, something that kind of brings you back home?
So as I said, I'm an honorary Cajun, or maybe I'm a Cajun, but so food wasn't, food is a great part of South Louisiana culture. I didn't grow up with that because my mom was from North Georgia, my dad was from northern Minnesota. Not two places that are known for this great cuisine or this culture of food, around food and family so much. And so I don't have, unlike many people here, I don't have these memories of a certain meal or certain things. But as I got older, when I got married, so my mother-in-law will make a pork roast butt, rice and gravy. I love it. And every time I'd ask her, how do you cook it? She would never really tell me. And she said, oh, I'll just get a roast and cook it. And I'm like, no. So one day, this is maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I didn't even tell my wife. I drove over to her house. I picked her up. I said, we're going shopping. I brought her to the grocery store. I made her tell me exactly, what would you buy?
Yeah.
We went back to her house. She cooked it. I watched her. I literally took notes. And then now I can cook, not as well as her, but pretty close. And so it was more memories around my in-laws because that was a big part of their family.
Sure.
And so now I've adopted those traditions, and I'll cook our roast rice and gravy, or I'll cook our gumbo. And I cooked an etouffee earlier this week. And so it was, it's kind of those memories, not when I was a child, but more recently that I've kind of latched onto because I see how important that is.
And you're building them for your kids. So
that's exactly right.
20 years from now when they're on this show, hopefully this show's still surviving. I won't be here.
Maybe they'll text me and ask me the recipe.
There you go.
That's right.
You know, it's especially in some of those older recipes from around here. You open up these old cookbooks and some of the things it's hard to find. These ingredients like oleo, I've never seen that in the store before. Crisco is a base of so many things. My grandfather used kitchen bouquet.
Yes.
He would rub his the chicken or the roast down with that beforehand, and so I started using it. You know, I don't know what it does, but I'm using it.
No, exactly. Or they don't have the measurements, right? So it just says, add some salt. And I'm like, well, how much salt?
Yeah, just add it.
Let's add it. And I'm like, well, that doesn't help me.
All right, we're going to go from food to music. So you're slightly younger than me. So I'm going to go ahead and guess that cassette tapes were not in your car. But
That
you probably had
is
CDs.
correct.
You probably had one of those big black CD books and probably 50 CDs inside
I
there.
sure did.
And there was probably one in the front that was played the most. What was Josh Carlson's, I'm burning out my CDs back in the day?
All right, so I'm giving you insight, and everybody's going to like roll their eyes and say, oh, of course. But I was never, two things. One, I was never really into pop music in the time or anything like that. So I was either listening to, which was very boring at the time, like contemporary Christian pop music, which is like kind of just coming on the scene.
Sure.
Or I'm also a really big jazz fan.
Oh, excellent.
So I played saxophone growing up for
another thing I didn't know.
9 years.
There you go.
I was like all state, all South saxophone player. So I love jazz. And I love classical music. So if I was like trying to be cool, which I wasn't, then I was like listening to, I'd put on like some like Christian rock music, which is like, an oxymoron. Or I was most of the time I was listening to jazz or classical music. So I was like not the person to hang out with. Like nobody asked me, Josh, you picked the music, because I'm like, putting on Beethoven's Sixth Symphony and Kind of Blue to listen to Miles Davis play trumpet, and it just
that translates really well into adulthood, though.
It does. It also makes me very boring, and
it's okay. It's okay. That's probably good for our jobs every now and then.
Maybe so.
Probably good. Josh, I played the trumpet. So between you and I, we got part of a marching
band
together.
Maybe we need a legislative like jazz quartet. That would be great.
They're fantastic.
Well, we've got plenty of time at the Capitol, right? So let's find a drummer, a pianist. We'll be great.
I love it. Yeah, we'll start putting that together. So somebody, we drop somebody into your district with you, and we want to show them, 24 hours. What it means to be in Acadiana and what it means to be in your district. Where we're taking them.
So if I'm taking them just to my district, because that's tough, right? Yeah.
All right, we'll open it up. You can cross into any district.
Well, I mean, I'll try to narrow it down. I mean, I think part of it is it's no longer there.
Yep.
But I would have taken them a couple years ago. I would have taken them to Randall's Restaurant, right, which was a staple in my district. Now Superior Grill is there, but it was. When we had family members come from out of state, we'd take them to Randall's. It was near our house. They could hear some Cajun music, get some great food. There's a lot of great restaurants throughout the district, and you almost have to drive now, going to like Broussard or Youngsville and see some of those places. But one of the first things that comes to mind is, it's not just as simple as business. I'll explain in a second. I would probably take them to see some of the businesses in my district, like Stuller's, Vimed, LHC Group. Those are the kind of the big ones that come to mind. And this is the reason why I say this. Every district has businesses, but these were businesses that were started from the ground up, right? They were somebody, it would be the same thing as taking them to Reds, right? Or it was somebody who saw a need, said, I can serve my community and help the people that I live next door to, and grew a business from nothing to these international businesses. And it speaks to our culture here. So it's so much more than business. It's our Cajun ingenuity, it's our work ethic, and our commitment to serving others. And now, you have Matt Stoller, who was selling jewelry out of the trunk of his car. And now it's a $1 billion organization selling wholesale jewelry to every jeweler throughout, pretty much throughout the United States and around the world. And you go through all those companies. I would point to that and say, these are the kind of people that make up my district and make up Acadiana. Hardworking, would give you the shirt off their back. Sure. And that has led to the success of these businesses. And so I think I would point that to highlight just the kind of people that we have here.
No, I think that's fantastic. And make sure you feed them too, though. I mean,
of course, of course,
but make sure you feed them. And I think that's it speaks a little bit about the culture. You already said about the culture down here. I mean, when we look at that, what's something about that culture down here? And maybe you answered it. Maybe it's that Cajun ingenuity, right? But what's something about the culture down here that you wish the rest of the nation might grab a little hold of?
I wish it's exactly that you got to take the time to meet the people here, right? I think we have a perception that that we have hurricanes, that people don't have this great education sometimes because we haven't had a great education system for a lot of time. And I remember this. I remember when I was a kid, or maybe a young teenager, and the movie The Waterboy came out. Mm-hmm. And I had a cousin who lived in Florida who literally called me and asked, is that really what it's like in Louisiana? I mean, they really had this picture. And I said, it takes time to get to know people. Sure. I referenced my in-laws. My father-in-law finished 8th grade, and that's it. But speaks 2 languages fluently. And that wasn't always looked at, that was kind of looked down upon, and was at one point, forced to just speak English, but fluent in 2 languages, can build and make anything. And I think that is kind of representative of the people here, that we can endure hurricanes, we can figure it out, we'll take a bunch of leftover stuff and make some of the best food ever. And unfortunately, it takes time to get to know that about somebody. You can't just see it in a headline on a news article or a stat showing how good our education system is or isn't. Doesn't tell that story. Sure. And so I wish people could spend time to see that we will serve our neighbor, right? We're going to board up our house for a hurricane, and then we're going to go and help our neighbor. Yep. And then we're going to help chop up the tree that fell, and we're going to serve until the job's done. And that's what I wish people around the country got to see, because if you see that, I think you'd fall in love with Louisiana like my parents did. I always asked when I was a kid, why did we leave Colorado, right? Colorado's beautiful. You can go skiing, and you have the mountains and all of this stuff. And it always comes down to the people, right? Mm-hmm. We hear that all the time. You can't replace the people. Right. And I wish people got a chance to see that more often. Yeah, no. And look, it's a common thread that we hear when we ask this question, and we ask it a lot. It's the reliance on each other, and it's the care for each other. Yes. And it's not a place that you see everywhere in our nation, but it's certainly something that is deeply rooted in this culture. That's right. Yeah, great answer. I'm gonna flip a little bit back over to the legislative. We got a few minutes left to talk. Mm-hmm. So when you think about what's a lesson in life or in public service that taught you that you didn't fully sink in, it maybe didn't sink in when you were younger, but like came in later in life for you, maybe once you found yourself in office? So I remember when I was a senior in high school, I got to go. I was in the gifted program at Lafayette High. We went to a competition in Moscow for math, science, and computer science. I got to compete in computer science. And there were teams from all over the world there, and we competed, and we came back, and we went to a Bessie board meeting. And they were going to give us an award, and I remember talking to one of the gentlemen on the Bessie board after the meeting, and I was 17, 18 at the time. And I told him, I said, look, when I'm older, I want to run for office. And at that time, everyone on the Bessie board was 65 plus, didn't have kids, or some of them not even grandkids in public schools, and they were making decisions that affected public schools. And I said, look, we need somebody who's 65, but we also need somebody who's 25. Yeah. And I think I made that statement to him, and he said, that's great, and we do. He said, but before you ever change something, go and learn why it is the way that it is. Right? Because it's easy to come as, the young guy with ideas and I know better and I'm going to change this and I'm going to fix this. But until you can answer why do we have the laws that are currently on the books? Because there was a reason why somebody put those in place. And maybe that was a good reason. Maybe that was a bad reason. Maybe it was good for the time, but the time has changed. That's really important. And I took that in and I didn't really think much about it until I was elected, really in the legislature. Because I can say, well, I want to go and change this law. But what makes me a better legislator is if I go and understand why was that law first put in place. And if I understand that, sometimes I've gone and said, you know what? I don't think we need to change this. Yep. I see this one little perspective or this one aspect, but when I look at the whole picture and understand why, maybe we are doing the best in this area. Maybe we don't need to change it. And then also it's reinforced sometimes what I thought and say, okay, yes, this was put in place because it was needed 50 years ago or 100 years ago, but our culture, our state has changed, and now we need to adapt and adjust. And so that's probably been the best piece of advice is don't change a law until you first understand why the existing law was put into place.
And maybe even just remain a constant learner, right?
Absolutely, because you don't know. I mean, there's so many bills. You cannot know everything. You have to meet with as many people as possible. Give me as much info so I can decipher through it, and then I can make the best possible decision. But if I know best and I'm going to do this, you're probably going to end up messing something up.
All right, fair enough. All right, I'm moving over to this lightning round. I kept this page where you couldn't see it because I'm going to end up boxing you in on some things. All right, I won't ask you your favorite king cake or anything like that because that could box you in a bad way with constituents. So I'm going to ask traditional king cake or boudin king cake.
Definitely traditional. I like it. I like boudin, but king cake is.
I was watching the news the other day, and there's a new boudin queso dip at one of the local places. So
why did we not have some to sample?
Well, I know on top of a boudin king cake.
Correct.
For the boudin. All right, crawfish boil or fish fry.
Crawfish boil.
All right. Yeah. Fair enough. Well, this is going to be a tough one because you were born in the freezing and frigid, but moved to the hot and humid. So hot and humid or freezing cold?
Freezing cold.
You'd rather be cold all day.
I can always make myself warmer. I can put on a jacket, but when it's hot, there's nothing you can do. It's just hot.
It's what I tell my wife, Carly, every night is she's like in a parka trying to sleep, and I have literally like everything off trying to not sweat. So we are in different sides of that spectrum.
No, I love it. Yeah. I love it chilly.
All right. Yeah. So quiet drive or Beethoven turned up. I would say music turned up.
Yeah, nobody wants to do that in my car. No, I love a quiet drive.
Okay.
I say that if my wife can be that, like if we can just get in the car and just drive and. There's a place between here and Lake Charles. It's in Lacassine, the Lacassine Pool.
Yeah.
And they have tons of wildlife. Sometimes just going there and no radio, roll down the windows and just looking at that's what I love.
That sounds kind of nice, Josh.
Yeah.
I think I know the answer to this one. Zoom or in-person meetings?
In person.
In person.
I want to shake your hand. Yep. I want to read body language.
Yep.
I mean, I love the convenience of Zoom. But there's so much just lost.
But of course, with your technology background, not a problem getting on Zoom. I may need my dad to get.
I always end up fixing the Zoom meeting for everybody I'm with.
Josh, we ask this question to everybody who comes on the show, and it's our second to last question because we'll have to wrap up pretty quick here. But when you think about Louisiana 5 or 10 years from now, where do you hope we are, and what do you think that you think will something that we got right?
So I think that, we've seen Louisiana at the bottom of good lists for so long, right? Education, healthcare, criminal justice, all these different areas, business climate, tax time. You go down the list. From a practical standpoint, I'd like to see us, in the low 40s, mid 30s, improving because I think that will accurately reflect how great of a state we do have. And then people will give us a chance to come here, whether it's a family moving like mine did 40 years ago, or it's a business saying we're going to move to this state and give it a chance. When you're at the bottom of the list, it's like people immediately write you off and don't want to even give you the opportunity. Whereas if they did, I think they'd realize what we all know, that Louisiana, it really is a great place. You just got to give it a shot. And so I'm hoping that the policies that you and I are voting on and move the needle so much so that it's almost like a domino effect, right? It's that snowball. It just starts off rolling downhill. And once you build up the momentum, then it builds on top of each other, and you don't need to help it so much. But we've got to get the process going. We've got to start that momentum, and so that's what I'm hoping that we can accomplish.
Oh, I love the goal. I'm there with you. I'm going to box you in one more time here. We got probably about 30 seconds, and would love for you to talk about a nonprofit organization that means a lot to you in the area.
I mean, there's so many.
Sure.
That's one thing in Lafayette and Acadiana. We have so many great, but one that's really near and dear to my heart is the Outreach Center. They do homeless outreach, and I love them because they don't just meet an immediate need through a shelter or a meal, but they really come alongside people and whole families, right? Young kids, and partner with families, work to get them off the street, help them get jobs, and their success rate is like in the 90th percentile because they stick with you long term, and they're not just feeding you today. They're going to work with you for the next 2 years to get you to a stable place. And so I really love what they do.
What a great organization. And I know you work with a lot of organizations. I'm sad to box you in like that on one, but I have to do it because for every guest that comes on our show, the Zuschlag Family Foundation and Myers Family Foundation are making a donation of $500 in your honor and your family's honor for talking about them today, and they'll be making that donation. So again, thanks for bringing them up.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Josh, seriously, thanks for coming on the show. It's moments like this that, as busy as we get, I learned so many things today. I hope our viewers and our listeners learned a lot about you. And honestly, it's understanding what shaped you and shaped the hard worker that we all see and the guy who's spending so much time on the ground working so hard for the state of Louisiana. So thank you again for being on the show.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for all you do.
Absolutely. And thank you to everyone who joined for this episode, and thanks to the team here at KRBS, inside the studio and behind the cameras and the microphones. Thanks to Emily Montagne, our production editor. And as always, we encourage you to listen and subscribe. Come back for our next conversation and stay engaged what's happening in the Capitol throughout the session and beyond as we all work to bring Louisiana forward together. I'm State Senator Brock Myers, and we'll see you next time inside the rails.